let's talk. You mentioned automation when you earlier on, right? We're seeing all kinds of labor shortages. We're seeing travel restrictions. It just seems like delivering service has become quantum more difficult in the last year. And yet, I look at certain professions, systems integrators, lawyers, they're still sticking to the very labor-intensive model, right? What is going on? But why aren't they moving to more automation? How are you seeing people? Let's talk about service delivery. How are people adjusting to this crazy world of labor shortages and so on?
For sure, I'm so proud of all the people that have continued to deliver service, in the pandemic and continue to put service first. I always say that the field workers are ones that we need to treasure, and I try and, I see all of our customers really treasuring them even before the labor shortages. So part of the say the monetization model change has gone from what I call more of a piece rate model or a visit-based or appointment-centric model to more of an outcomes-based model. And that is a super important one that helped us get through the pandemic and will continue to help us deal with the labor shortages that we have. Automation is here to make us as people more effective. And that's something that I think is missed occasionally when we talk about automation, that automation isn't here on its own. It's here to make us more effective, and because our time is precious. That's its reason for being. And when you apply automation to utilize the best talents of your people in the most effective ways, we all benefit from it. And it means that your labor force can do more and more efficiently. So we're definitely seeing the embrace of more automation. It's interesting. I'll just give an example. We have a fantastic product called Planning, Scheduling, and Optimization that is AI machine learning enabled, but also can be used first to drive automation. And in the past, when companies had, say, an excess of people, it was often harder to get them to embrace automation for efficiency. What we're now seeing is that many of our companies, because of the labor shortage and catching up on some types of service visits, they have such, say, an excess demand to the quantity of labor that they are almost begging for automation and AI-enabled tools that help their people to catch up on that demand faster. So what used to be seen as an imposition now has become something that is hugely valued and embraced because the people in the dispatch centers, the field workers, see it as helping them to get their work done better, helping them to deliver the customer experience, and really helping them to deliver mission critical repairs, maintenance, or even inspections as it involves keeping an asset up and running. So the labor shortage is very real. It's something that's driving the adoption of technology, but it's also driving some of the necessary change management to really think about how we best utilize the people in the field that really are digitally enabled now and really are at the forefront of our new type of worker, if you think about it.
So Mark, Marty just mentioned clearly automation is starting to play a big role. As a technology analyst, you mentioned a couple of things that get me excited, right? Digital twins, and you mentioned IoT. Clearly, Marty mentioned, field service automation. So augmented reality is starting to come into play. Those are things I'm excited about. What are you seeing in terms of new technology when it comes to service delivery?
Yeah, I think the pandemic has been a driver here as well, Vinnie. We're seeing this whole category that we call frictionless service. And a lot of the technology, if you like, sums into that. So, why do I need to call a contact center to book an appointment for an engineer? Why do I need to call the same contact center to chase what's the ETA of my engineer? I can download a movie and book a whole vacation from my couch, right? With this thing here. So these are the expectations. We talk about AI a lot, but we're really seeing AI augmenting the human as opposed to necessarily replacing the human. So again, here, you talked about AR, but we're seeing the next evolution. We're seeing voice assistant. So the technician actually impacts. So he can use both hands, by the way, and he can just, give me procedure for removing the case, procedure for removing the pump, and you get the prompts. So it's two-way as well. Can you go back? Give me that again, etc. This is the technology that's in play today. So there's frictionless services as many stakeholders. It's frictionless for the customer. It's frictionless for the service provider. It's frictionless for the technician, for example. Again, on the contact center, think about one of our large customers got maybe 100 agents in a contact center. Trying to visualize above the head of each one of those agents, there's a thought bubble. And that's actually what the AI is doing. It's listening to every conversation and it's adding value to the conversation. It's prompting them. This is the next thing you need to ask about. Oh, I heard the phrase pump broken. Then it's one of these two eventualities. We'll never have enough humans, but the AI is fantastic at augmenting the human in that example. And then one final point would be predictive everything, predictive X, right? So whether that's predictive job durations based on how long things are now taking versus how long they were taking 2 years ago when you put in that estimated runtime, if you will. Predictive parts, 98.x of the time, these are the two components you need for that visit, bring them along. Or even predictive no-shows. It's annoying for us when the engineer doesn't show, but what about for the engineer when we're not there? And that happens a lot in some industries. So again, they can do pattern matching regression analysis to determine that eventuality. All of these things sum into this game that we're starting to pioneer here at IFS called frictionless service, and everyone benefits from it, Vinnie.
I think that's part of this is enablement, right? And I think that's a big change that we're making here at IFS in our approach is that if you look at even how mobility started or certain other technology, it was really to enable, say, processes to be performed in the field, back office processes, I mean. And with the change in people being now often the most scarce resource that you have, even in Asia, it used to be said that, in Asia that doesn't apply, but it does apply, and it is more and more, especially when you look at the skilled workers, that we want to be enabling everyone to be more effective. And technology, whether it's AI enabled or just frankly content enabled, helps new workers to come up to speed faster. And it also helps even, say, experienced workers to embrace the pace of change that's happening in our economy. Moore's Law started off as about semiconductors, but it's actually impacting everything in our society. And change management, that's thinking about how you embrace technology, how you can drive enablement, how you're thinking about continuing to involve use cases. And we here want to stay at the forefront of making that easier for our customers, because I'll say a lot of our customers are struggling not only to embrace servitization, not only to move to outcomes, but just to keep pace with the fundamental accelerating, say, climate of technology, customer demands, et cetera.
So Marty, clearly Mark talked about how management thoughts have to change, right? Move to more outcome-based. But clearly the service worker has to change. There's so much technology that is showing up in service delivery. Are you seeing the next generation service worker evolve? Are we still seeing the blue collar, tell me what you're seeing in terms of how the service worker is evolving.
So absolutely. And frankly, I think that the blue collar nomenclature is outdated. I grew up in agriculture, and I'll say, the tractors of my youth that are no longer the tractors of my adulthood, right? I mean, frankly, you don't even need a person now to run the highest quality combines that are GPS enabled and you can program them, unless you want to be in the tractor that's air conditioned and actually quite digitally enabled where you can plug in your phone and all these cool things. And, field workers are the same. If you have a field technician that has been experienced 20, 30 years, yes, most of them have had digital tools, either inflicted or ones that they've enjoyed using. But what they want from those digital tools, even with the more mature career workers, has changed. And they're starting to see them as critical to do their job versus an imposition. With people joining, whether they're millennials or whatever generation, those will be used to, some of them might be gamers, some of them, regardless, they'll all be used to iPhones and computers and things like that. I'm old enough to remember when I got my first computer, right? So, and I remember when my first cell phone didn't roam internationally, right? So I was part of that generation that really started embracing new kinds of technology. And when you're bringing in, say, initial career field technicians or what have you, they're already very conversant with tools, and they want their digital tools to be more than a basic thing. They want it to be at the level of what they're used to in their personal lives. And frankly, that's what a lot of the digital transformation, the digital dream teams of these companies want too. So it is great that we're seeing the adoption and the drive to embrace technology in new ways, also from the field and frankly, all across the workforce. So our job is to make sure that we're able to make that as seamless and as easy as possible, and that we're able to connect the data to the people that need it.
Mark, it's sitting in the UK. You're probably seeing a completely different set of challenges, right? With Brexit, a lot of labor, a lot of supply chain issues. Tell us how technology is going to help in that work.
Yeah. I never use that B word, Vinnie, because it's too contentious in this country. But
It's better than the C word, COVID.
yeah, that's true. That's true. No, but depending on who you ask, right now in the UK, there's between 1.2 and 2 million vacancies out there, right? We literally cannot get the people. And IFS is in that situation. We're looking for great people. So, by the way, anyone listening, if it sounds good to you, IFS is looking for great people.
Mark was always selling.
ABC, always be pleasant. Yeah. So now coming back to the point, but I think Marty made a terrific point a few minutes ago. When we roll these out, nearly 20 years ago now, if you're old enough to remember wireless access protocol, WAP, back then, it's a long time ago. And I saw some screenshots of IFS mobile app back in 2002. The truth is, we gave these to the technicians as the cool new technology, but the beneficiary, Vinnie, was the back office.
Sure.
Right? It is the administration. It gave them if you like, the paper burden. It took the paper burden away. It gave visibility of the text, and so the beneficiary is the back office. What I see now is we're looking at the individual personas and how we can enhance those personas. So
Exactly.
Marty used the phrase, technician enablement is what we now talk about instead of mobility, if you will. So my example with the voice guidance, for example, is true value add, and then democratizing knowledge, Vinnie. So we talk a lot about remote assistance tools, AR tools, if you will, but the real power is the fact that we can democratize the knowledge of that 30-year veteran who's going to, by the way, walk out the door if you don't give them promotion, if you will. Well, that promotion is to make them a remote expert. And
but also the expertise in the manufacturing plant, right? So the experts that might even not be the 30-year technician.
Exactly.
We talk about a lot about that, Mark.
Yeah. So that expert, he could maybe visit 4 or 5 customers. And by the way, in the pandemic, he couldn't visit any customers. But now you can leverage his knowledge across 30 visits a day to the Generation Z or the millennials or the new hires, if you will. And all of a sudden you've democratized knowledge. So I think that's the evolution, Vinnie. It's looking at the personas and now we actually enhance those roles. And by the way, that's done how you attract and retain those individuals. So employee engagement is becoming, if you like, just as important as when we used to talk about customer engagement and customer experiences as well.
Well, we're also
sometimes. Sorry, excuse me, Vinnie.
Sorry, go ahead, Marty.
I was saying that there are times when we're talking, with the companies and they're talking about labor shortages, and I'm like, how are you making being a field tech cool? I mean, I think about again growing up, how some of the advertisements that we've seen that enabled and really motivated people to join organizations. And I think there's such an opportunity now for our customers and frankly service-based customers around the world to be really not only glorifying the role of the field service worker, because what they do is so important, but it's really a cool role. They're digitally enabled, they have access to evolving technology, often the most sophisticated things there are in the world, and they get to drive around, having kind of being a master of their destiny as they move through the day, servicing customers and assets in really meaningful ways. So, occasionally I'll offer to write the job description for field technicians for some of our customers, because, they do have cool jobs. And I unfortunately don't get to go on ride-alongs nearly as often as I would like to, because it really is fun. Anyone that's not done a ride-along with a technician, I fully encourage you to do so.
Marty, you make a great point. You really should be encouraging them to make the rules sound, and they are more exciting than the previous generation. I had a warehouse robotics CEO say, he said, Vinnie, it's drudgery, you would think, warehouse work, right? But I've seen one of my customer employees, a lady, proudly tell her daughter, I get to work with, their robots have names, I get to work with R2D2, whatever, with pride, right? So automation should be a sense of pride for the next generation worker.
But here's the obvious point there, Vinnie. These guys, these field techs, they're the superheroes, right? Because, you're at home, it's in the UK, if it would be hot at 32 degrees centigrade, let's say, you're at home and your AC's failed. And this guy comes and he gets it up and running in 20 minutes. Wow, he's the superhero, right? It's the same with the elevator in the hotel lobby, right? So the interesting transition with servitization we've seen now, Vinnie, and IoT, is that the drive for outcomes means that you'll probably see less of the technician, because we're designing service and longevity into the products. So when they do have to come out, they're the superheroes, as I've just mentioned. And I think sometimes we forget to put them on that pedestal for this hiring.
Well, I'm a big fan of Mike Rowe, who has talked a long time about blue collar work, and he's got a new series out. So, the more we can respect those blue collar technician jobs, the better. Let's wrap it up. What else excites you about the servitization journey? We've covered a lot of ground: business models, new technology, new mindsets. What else excites you?
What I love is our job is never done. When you think about customers, people, assets, the future, there's always more that we can do related to technology that we put to work, and maybe not even new ways, but ways that are more effective in driving innovation. So innovation both in technology and innovation in adoption. Thinking about how we enable people to appreciate the meaningfulness of the work that they are doing, and also embrace technology as a complement to their skills, not something that's an imposition. I love being in a career in an area that service will never not be needed. And that's something that is so important. We might one day not need certain things in technology and what have you with obsolescence, but service might change how it's delivered, when it's needed, what is needed, but it will never go away. And that's something that really drives us to be thinking not only what our customers need today, but what they need in 10 to 20 years.
I echo Marnie's thoughts there, Vinnie. I mean, this might sound a little bit of a paradox, but COVID has put service to the forefront, because service literally kept the world running, right? It kept the taps flowing with water. It kept the electricity, the lights on in your and my homes. And it kept these Zoom calls, saving our, if you like, businesses in many respects. And that was all about service, upgrading the networks, ensuring that the pipes were still, able to carry water and electricity on the cables and so forth. So what I would say is, it's really at the forefront, as Marnie said, it's every business. By its very nature, it's a sustainability model, because, service is not about buying new products. It's about extending the longevity of the products you already have. So that's top of mind for a lot of people. And then finally, the biggest endorsement for me, Vinnie, is that, the biggest companies in the world are trying to become service companies. The biggest company by market cap is still Apple. And when Apple, does its new, its September, if you like, conference from its headquarters, it no longer puts the new iPhone as the first thing. The first thing it puts up there is Apple TV and Apple Arcade, which are their service models. And that's the thing that the analysts.
And this year it was Fitness Plus, right? So services have become Tim Cook. That's been Tim Cook's big contribution to Apple, right?
Exactly. So I think that makes the point very, very evidently, Vinnie, that everyone wants to get in the service game.
And using that Apple example, Apple is special in leading the world because it not only delivers a product and a service, but it inspires people. And I am on a bit of a crusade that I want service to be inspirational. I want it not to be a byproduct, but something that inspires the brand customers to choose a brand and continue choosing a brand. Because great service is inspirational and everyone should see it as such, including up to the C-suite, the board, shareholders, everyone that helps make a company great.
And when we talk about the quick line, Vinnie, when we talk to our elevator customers, it used to be this elevator, the technology, the safety, the efficiency. When we talk to the elevator companies now, they don't talk about their technology anymore. You know what they say to their customers? We're in the business of people flow. And that brings us right back to the top of the discussion, which is outcomes are what count.
Well, love you guys' passion, and I agree. Service, especially coming out of the pandemic, is going to be huge. I mean, we're seeing such crappy service right now that those who can provide, consistent, high quality service, it's going to become a differentiation for the next few years. So, thank you very much, Marnie and Mark. Very, very invigorating. We covered so much ground. Bring you back for more. I mean, like you say, it's a journey. So. Thank you again.
Love it. It's our pleasure, Vinnie. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Thanks a lot.